The stage is set for Saturday night at Soldier Field. Bears-Packers round 2, first place in the division on the line yet again, and a chance to clinch in some scenarios if the Bears get the job done. Welcome into Bears Blitz, brought to you by IGS Energy. Luke Canellis, Anthony Herron. I'm Cassie Carlson. The Bears haven't beaten the Packers at home since 2018. That's when they clinched the NFC North, and I keep talking to people about this game on Saturday because I am so excited for it. And the only thing I can compare it to is what the Super Bowl would feel like in this town right now.
It better be a stop on the way to Santa Clara and the Super Bowl in February for this Bears team. You ran down some of the numbers. The Bears haven't beaten Green Bay in Chicago at Soldier Field since 2018. I think the Packers are 13-1 against the Bears over the last 14. Come on, the stage is set, and you've got the 12th man on your side, that Bears crowd.
And I think that there's a good chance these teams are going to see each other again in the postseason, but that doesn't diminish the gravity of this game because it is an opportunity, just like the second half of that game we just saw a couple of weeks ago, where the Bears were able to begin outplaying the Packers for a stretch of that game. And so even though it ended up being a defeat, I was really encouraged by what the Bears showed in that second half because Green Bay played well, Chicago played better in half number 2, and were perhaps just a pass and a 2-point conversion away from winning in Lambeau. And then the mature performance we saw against the Cleveland Browns last week, where they were sharp, they were ready, they ended up blowing out a team that was looking to get blown out, and the Bears happily obliged. So we see a couple of teams that are banged up, but the Bears feel like the squad that's ascending right now.
All right, and the Bears can clinch a playoff spot this weekend with a win over the Packers and a Lions loss to the Steelers. That's Sunday afternoon right here on Fox. And obviously a lot on the line in a very wild NFC. I don't know if you saw the Rams-Seahawks game last night. Like, that just goes to show how close and how tough this division is, and the Bears are well aware of the situation.
There doesn't need to be much of a message here this week. They know. They know what's at stake. We're going to need them out in full force. There's no question they can impact the game. They did last week. It's shocking to me that such a cold game, I almost felt them more last week than I did earlier in the season. And so that was so encouraging to see. I know our guys fed off of it.
I think everybody's excited for it. I think, even DJ said it after, the game we feel as if we let them off the hook. We want to go out there and play our brand of football, and it gives us the best shot to go win the game. And that's starting fast, playing physical, executing plays the way that we know we can.
It's what you dream about, the opportunity to play primetime football, rivalry game, playoff implications, see the implications. I mean, you can't ask for a better moment, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
And Caleb Williams is coming off one of his best games as a Bear. The accuracy finally showed up. He said this week he is beaming with confidence, called it almost a sense of arrogance, which I think you want in your starting quarterback. And he knows, I loved his quote this week. He said if he plays like he did last week or even better, they have a real shot to do whatever they want to do in this league. The one catch that DJ Moore had in the back of the end zone, that throw will go down as maybe his best that he's had as a Bear so far. But what did you see from last week that you believe was a sign of improvement that's going to carry over throughout the rest of the season?
Well, you brought it up. He was a confident quarterback out there. He was patient. He went through his progressions. And, man, he had a zip on the football, even if it was 20 below zero on the lakefront. He looked really good out there. I thought it was the best game that Caleb Williams has had as a pro. Maybe the numbers have been better in other games, but he just looked like a different quarterback out there, and his team followed him. Listen, the numbers were just as good as they were against Cincinnati in Week 9, but this was a different defense than what the Bears faced against the Bengals in Week 9. And what I'm excited about is what happened to that Packers defense, Big A, in Denver, because I saw Bo Nix tear that defense apart for over 300 yards and 4 touchdown passes.
And certainly some of those Denver highlights came after Micah Parsons was lost, but you did see an offense that was able to carve up that Packers team. And the Cleveland squad that they faced last week, Myles Garrett, best defensive player in football, but it's one of the top defenses in football, not only because of Myles Garrett and Caleb Williams and that offensive line. They were still able to look comfortable. Caleb in the pocket, through with decisiveness, that sort of comfy mode that he was in. We hope that carries over into this week. And when I mentioned mature, the maturity of Caleb as a passer, we're seeing it continue to grow on a weekly basis. There's a lot of encouraging signs that the accuracy we've been hoping for is really coming along. And I think that what he did as a quarterback and being ahead of the play, that's to me where I saw the most growth, as opposed to feeling like he needed to sort of catch up to something he recognized late. He really seemed to trust where his eyes took him.
You just saw all those stats that were up on the screen, and one of the things that Caleb Williams might not hit this year is 4,000 passing yards. But I don't think that really matters to him anymore, because they're winning football games, and the entire locker room is finally winning football games. For someone like DJ Moore, who's never experienced a winning season, he's now like in unfamiliar territory. He's like, people are suddenly asking me what it feels like, and he's like, it feels amazing. And that's why I think that he's not speaking out, or he wasn't speaking out about the targets like he ever would. But he had a big game last week. He had the 2 touchdowns. Now Rome Odunze and Luther Burden are going to be out for this game again. Do you still feel good about the receiving core that the Bears have with those 2 players out, and Colston Loveland, who's been their top receiver since the bye week?
Ben Johnson told us at the beginning of the season that one of his great challenges this year was feeding all those mouths, all those playmakers on offense. And now we're going to see just what kind of depth the Bears have at the wide receiver spot. With no Odunze, all right, you've got no Luther Burden III out there. Olamide Zaccheaus was terrific in the preseason. No more drops. 5 drops leads the team right now. We need Zaccheaus to play well on Saturday night. More DJ Moore. I was so happy to see him come through with those 2 touchdown passes. And maybe even a guy or 2 off the practice squad may stand out.
Some guys will likely get that opportunity. And we've seen the way this Bears coaching staff has been able to develop the additional talent as playmakers have had to step in when the starters have had to step out via injury or other circumstances. And the Bears' run game is what gives them all the comfort in the world. And so you've got 2 backs. It's almost like DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai are sort of trading chances to be the lead back on a weekly basis. Swift coming off of a huge game last week against Cleveland. Monangai was the guy who was kind of the energy giver the last time they faced the Packers a couple of weeks ago. So you got an offensive line that can block up the run in this way, a head coach who schemes it up, and 2 backs running downhill. This is a run game that, even despite some of the losses of talent at wide receiver, should give the Bears every opportunity to move the ball.
And a run game behind that offensive line that we learned this week. Caleb Williams has a nickname for each of them. He calls them the Avengers for the way they're playing. And I can't remember, I'm not an Avengers person, but Darnell, right? He said named his because he has 1 arm. I love that. We got to talk about Micah Parsons being lost for the season with the torn ACL. The Bears game planned against him 2 weeks ago. Now he's not going to be there. How does that defense look different?
I'll tell you what, I don't care what Green Bay defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley tries to sell us. You lose Micah Parsons, you've lost a huge part of your defense. Not to mention Devontae White in the middle of that defensive line. Not to mention you don't have Kenny Clark, who was part of that D-line a year ago because you lost him in the Micah Parsons trade. It's not the same Green Bay defense without Micah Parsons.
I believe we'll see more blitzing is what it comes down to. You know, the pass rush doesn't have Micah Parsons. There's going to be more comfort for the Bears offense, but Jeff Hafley, he can dial up blitz pressure, and that's what I anticipate seeing.
What is the atmosphere that you're expecting Saturday night?
Hopefully the best one I've been a part of in my career. So I think for us, it's nothing better than, again, a primetime game against a rivalry team that is a really must-win for us at this point in the season. So, hopefully this is the best one that we won't forget.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson is ready for a get-back game against the Packers, as is the rest of the defense, including NFC Defensive Player of the Week, DeMarco Jackson. I go one-on-one with him this week on Bears Game Day Live. We have a special Saturday edition tomorrow, starting at 1:30 with Lou, Big Ant, Tina, and myself. And it was DeMarco Jackson who got the game ball last week and said he had a bad taste in his mouth for how that Packers game went 2 weeks ago. Well, let's start with that story, because it's a great story that he was cut from the Saints this past offseason after training camp, didn't make the 53-man roster. Dennis Allen knew who he was, and primarily a special teams guy. Then when they needed him, when all those linebackers go down, he seamlessly steps into that place and earns NFC Defensive Player of the Week, which is so impressive because Dennis Allen has done this with his defense week after week, given all the injuries.
He knows the talent he worked with in New Orleans. That's what I love about it. And if you ask him about DeMarco Jackson, he said, this guy was a quick learner. He soaked up everything I was trying to teach in New Orleans, and it has shown, as you touched on, Cassie, he was a special teamer. That's all he was doing in New Orleans. Gets cut loose, looking for a job. Bears pick him up, and now they've got some depth at linebacker. Thankfully, Tremaine Edmonds, hopefully on his way back. No official announcement yet. Now they've got Jackson where they can rotate Edmonds and Jackson in and out.
Yeah, Big Ant, that was going to be my question, because Ben Johnson pointed out Tremaine Edmonds was playing tremendously before he got hurt, and he has 4 interceptions on this season. He moved to Will. what do you do in that scenario when you have a guy coming up as the next man up, playing at an elite level, and then you have your guy who makes a lot of money on this Bears defense coming back from injury?
And to your point, was playing really well. I believe Tremaine Edmonds was playing the best football of his career before he had to leave the lineup with the injury. So he'll be back onto the field when he's truly prepared for it. Now, this is the first week that he's available to come off of IR. We'll see whether or not he's going to become the starter. But I don't believe it'll be the full-time linebacker right off the bat, because there's comfort that they have in the depth they've shown at that position. Even Noah Sewell was really playing well while he was in at linebacker, but DeMarco Jackson has been able to step in and really forge a role for himself. But none of these guys are Tremaine Edmonds. So as Edmonds gets healthy and proves that he's really ready to play a full game, he's going to be the guy back in there.
Can they play Edmonds and Jackson on the field at the same time with T.J. Edwards?
Well, yes, in certain situations. Like I think on rundowns, when you go to some of your base defensive personnel and you're expecting a heavy dose of Josh Jacobs, then sure, to have three linebackers out there can make a lot of sense. It just sort of depends on the matchup, the situation. But I do think, to your point, Lou, we'll see that on occasion, and that's the cat and mouse game between Matt LaFleur and Dennis Allen.
All right, let's talk about the explosives that were the big issue in Game 1 against the Packers 2 weeks ago. We know Jordan Love. He has a handful of receivers, most of them not huge name guys, but they can go out there and make plays. And Christian Watson, who went down last week, said he's planning on playing. What adjustments can this defense make to avoid that, especially early on in this game?
I think you learn by your mistakes, and you can't blitz this guy. You just can't. I think they blitzed him 42.7% of his dropbacks in that first meeting, and he made the Bears pay every time they blitzed. Even one time they faked the blitz, dropped 8 back, and he still tore him up. So I think you learn by your mistakes. You learn that, hey, Jordan Love's playing at the top of his game right now, and I think it's the key of the game, guys. The front four has to get to Love and make him uncomfortable. Forget about blitzing. The front four, Montez Sweat, Grady Jarrett, Austin Booker, Gervon Dexter. It's up to you guys.
I think that's the hope. But we've gotten to this point in the season, and the pass rush really hasn't shown itself to be dominant. They are coming off one of their best efforts of the season. Now, what was it, 5 sacks against Cleveland? They got after the Browns, especially once they got a lead. And that's one of those things that if the Bears can do that, especially at home, now you have the volume of the home crowd. You have maybe more predictable downs and distances. That's where, if a Bears offense can get off to a faster start than we've seen at various points this season, you know, it goes understated how much that can impact the Bears' defensive ability to dictate terms to the opponent if you perhaps can get them down, maybe even multiple scores at a certain point in the game.
Yeah, Jordan Love against the Blitz, he was 9 of 12 for 171 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's definitely going to be playing in Dennis Allen's mind. And you talk about the crowd, which was actually chanting that Green Bay chant that we're not going to sing. Right. We don't want to play into it. When the offense was on the field against the Cleveland Browns. Is Jordan Love doing anything differently now because he has 3 interceptions in the last 2 games and is not known to be throwing picks late in the season that you can take note of going into this game and the Bears who are at the 30 takeaway club?
All I can think of is that maybe he doesn't feel as confident with his running game because Josh Jacobs is playing hurt, but he is taking more chances as well. And as I said, if you put pressure on him, that Denver defense, Big A, man, that is an aggressive defense. You play there in the thin air of Colorado. It takes a toll on your body. You'd be better to talk about it than myself because you've played in Colorado. And I think he's just having a tougher time over the last 2 weeks because of some of the injuries that this Green Bay team is fighting through.
But they still have put up a lot of points. They've had a lot of chunk plays. The one interception against the Bears, it was a bad ball, not necessarily even a bad read. I just think he lost sight of C.D. Gardner-Johnson on that particular play, and then you look to the game last week. One of them, a tip pass, the other one, a deep ball where a nice play gets made. So I think on the whole, we're still seeing Jordan Love throw the ball with clarity, and especially with Christian Watson, if he is back in the lineup. There's nothing wrong with his legs. We'll just see if his shoulder and chest are healthy enough. That speed and size will still be there. And the Packers did a really effective job, guys, in the game a couple of weeks ago of finding matchups, not only for Christian Watson, but for Bo Melton and others. You don't want to let Green Bay's offense dictate terms and get C.D. Gardner-Johnson in the slot matched up one-on-one too frequently.
And I can't help but think there's been a little bit of an adjustment for that offense to play without Tucker Kraft, their tight end, who was leading the team in receptions and receiving yards. So it's taken a little bit of for the Packers to learn how to play without Kraft since he's out of the lineup for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and you talk about adjustments, I think, and one thing that Jalen Johnson and Dennis Allen both noted is that that interception, one that he had last week, was incredible. He just totally it fell into his arms when he wasn't even looking. But that builds confidence for someone like Jalen Johnson, who still admits he's not 100%. He's working his way back. And I think we can all see that on the field. And we're going to see how that translates now late into the season, knowing you want him out there. But how is it going to look? I think it's going to take some time yet. One thing of note that I thought was funny, because they are at 30 takeaways, in Al Harris's DB's room, they have a wall full of photos of each person getting their interception, along with a bucket of balls. So Jalen Johnson said it's not a quick turnaround. It takes some time. His isn't up there yet, but it's pretty cool to see that there's like some incentive and that they're really playing into this. And that's a credit to Al Harris and the way that he's coaching these guys. Time for our key matchup presented by Blue Moon. Micah Parsons is in the upper echelon of pass rushers in the NFL. His 12.5 sacks leads the team and is 5 more than the next Packer, Rashawn Gary. He has 7.5 sacks this season, but hasn't registered one in the last 7 games. And now that he's the primary pass rusher with Micah Parsons on IR with the torn ACL, teams will be keyed in on him even more. And Ozzie Trapillo has only allowed 2 sacks in his 4 starts, both which came against Myles Garrett. I think he'll take that number. The Bears have found something special in this second-round rookie Big Ant, and he is primed for another good one this weekend.
Big A, they pay him like an impact player. The guy's made $81 million in 7 seasons with the Packers. First 7 games of the season, 7.5 sacks. 0 for the last 7 games. What are opposing offenses doing with their lines to keep him away from the quarterback?
Well, frequently enough, he's got teammates beating him to the quarterback. Now, when you see Rashawn Gary engaged, he can be an elite-level pass rusher, and that's where, with Micah Parsons out of the lineup, I do believe you'll see Gary back to his most engaged point, and when he's that, he's extremely talented.
All right, we'll see if the Bears use more of that bully formation with 2 tight ends in the backfield because of that. Big Ant's got his player to watch and a special Christmas gift when we come back. Time for your player to watch, brought to you by IGS Energy. Big Ant, who are you going with?
I'm going with Colston Loveland. The tight end position has been great for the Bears throughout the majority of the season, expecting, especially with no Roma Dunze, no Luther Burden, he'll have a big role as a pass receiver and a blocker.
All right, well, welcome into our Fox 32 Christmas living room. It's our favorite time of the year, especially Big Santa's favorite time of the year. Hey, there's Ant in there.
That's right.
Where he writes a Christmas carol or story, as we have this year, and for the Bears. And we can't wait for this.
And I have my own special version that I've written for the 2 of you and for all Bears fans. 'Twas the march toward the playoff. Throughout Hallis Hall, Midway monsters were stirring, preparing the ball. The jerseys were hung by the lockers with care. If this squad got their game right, opponents beware. With hopes that were nestled all snug in our beds, as failure in taking the North brought us dread. We cycled through coaches and quarterbacks many. Getting them wrong was like swimming through jelly. Divisional races grew cluttered all year. Caleb's comebacks were plenty as Soldier Field cheered. Didn't doubt for a second they'd play their best ball, as Coach Johnson told runners to dash away all. Interceptions galore, takeaways were the norm. Now the Bears were assuming a championship form. Though the skeptics, they lingered, the haters grew wary. Could this team possibly go beyond January? On Byard, on Brisker, on Johnson and Wright, on Montez and Grady, Big Bill brought the fight. On DJ, on Luther, on Colston and Cole, on DeAndre and Kyle, plus the O-line in Rome. Schematic aggression was ruling the day with motions and blitzes from every which way. Then we heard them exclaim in victorious cheer, happy, good, better, best, for this is our year.
Bravo!
Wow, that might be the best one yet, Big Ant.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Special for you guys and Bears fans. Get this thing rolling. Let's go.
All right,
Happy holidays.
Put that in the hype reel right there. Hey, make sure to come back Saturday for Bears Game Day Live. We have a special edition from 1:30 to 3 that's going to take you all the way up to Game 1 and then leading into Bears Packers in primetime. We'll see you then.